What's up everybody, my name's Estix, and the other day I was watching a video from Meaty Magic that was called Using Yu-Gi-Oh cards for your commander, and I thought this was going to be a really good video, and it was a really good video, watched the whole thing, but there was a huge oversight. They used Exodia in the thumbnail, and I thought there was going to be an Exodia deck in the video. Spoilers, there wasn't. I'm going to take this opportunity to make sure that these beautiful, strong, smart, not Nick boys understand that there is hope for an Exodia deck. I was sifting through a bunch of cards the other day to think, how would Exodia work in Magic the Gathering? In the game Yu-Gi-Oh, you use Exodia to collect all the pieces to win the game. And I'm thinking to myself, in Magic, there is something similar to this where you take a bunch of different cards and they say things like, if you have this card, it does this. If you have this card, it does this. These cards are not very good in Commander. Why? Because there's only one copy of each card in the deck. So, today we are going to make a Commander deck focused on not only finding these cards in your deck, using them to their full potential, but also protecting them with your life. Living Brain Mechanical Marvel. At the beginning of your combat, target non-equipment artifact you control becomes an artifact creature with base power 3/3 until end of turn. Untap it. Now, this will make a lot of artifacts actually weaker to creature removal. However, the untap it actually makes this guy a busted commander. And we're going to use his ability to activate a lot of different cards in this deck that you collect that actually give you a lot of value from having other things on the battlefield. But first, let's start with our collection of this deck. And these are cards that are going to be the cards that you want to search for, you want to look at, and while you're searching through this deck, you want to find. Starting off with Fallout bobbleheads. Now, the Fallout bobbleheads are really good, and my favorite one is the Charisma bobblehead. But as the game progresses and the more bobbleheads you actually get to have more and more value. So at first, they're not very scary, but it's actually tempo for the game. So keep this in mind with all of these collector cards. My favorite bobblehead is Charisma bobblehead. 4 tap, create X11 white soldier tokens equal to the amount of bobbleheads you control, which is equal to, I think max is 7 bobbleheads that you can have. So 7 is actually pretty good for 4 mana, and you get to double this. Next, we have the Empire Trilogy. Now, the Empire Trilogy is a really sick trilogy that I don't see used very often, and it's Crown of Empires, Scepter of Empires, and Throne of Empires. Now, Throne of Empires does almost the same thing as Charisma bobblehead, where it taps and it creates 1/1 white creature tokens. And if you have the other 2, Crown of Empires and Scepter of Empires, you create 5 instead. So you can make up to 10 1/1 white soldier tokens for 2 mana for this turn. So that's really good, but you really have to collect the other 2. But getting 1 as a blocker in the meantime is still pretty solid. And last but not least, for these trilogies, we have the Worker Trilogy. Now, the Worker Trilogy is really good. We got Mine Worker, Power Plant Worker, and then Tower Worker. We also have Assembly Worker, but we're just going to try to focus on the trilogy here because they focus on each other. And Power Plant Worker seems to be the best one of the 3, which actually gives you 2+1/+1 counters on this creature for 3 mana. Pretty solid if you're already ramped up. If you have all 3, you could just basically dump all your mana into this and use him as a beater Goliath card. Let's be honest, that's really what he's used for in this deck. But the other 2 are pretty good utility, adding mana and adding life. And of course, you can't just have the collector cards. You also have to have the prized collector pieces. Now, one of my prized collector pieces is Hangerback Worker, which is actually really good because you basically just tap him, add 1/1 counters, and you also get to pay to add 1/1 counters before he even comes onto the battlefield. And then when he dies, you create that many Thopters, which you can activate his ability to tap for counters twice a turn instead of once a turn. Really solid for this commander. And I also recommend Orochi's Hatchery, which actually charges itself up and dumps tokens onto the battlefield. And very nice snakes. Don't see them very often, so it's fun to use them in a colorless deck if nothing else. Plus, this card also ramps. Early game it's good, late game it's good. You really want to focus on cards like that because this is all about tempo and out-tempoing your opponent. Next, let's get into collecting Exodia all the way. So first, we have Sentinel Flute. Now, Sentinel Flute is a card that lets you search for other artifacts in your library. Now, you have to remember the mana value, but honestly, it adds a little bit extra to the game, like a little bit extra skill, and that's really good. Your opponents are going to have a hard time focusing on what you're doing, but the more you learn in this deck, the better off you're going to be. Next, we have Soul Foundry. Now, Soul Foundry, actually, when it enters, you can exile a card from your hand, and then you can create a copy of those cards whenever you pay 3 mana. Now that's really solid because a lot of these cards, the more you have on the battlefield, the better off they're going to be. And honestly, for all of these cards, you could really use this for any of them, and it's going to be really good. You're going to basically double your ability, and then you're going to have an additional ability whenever a new creature enters the battlefield. Next, we have Scrapyard Recombiner, which will allow you to search your library for huge construct creatures to win you the game. Now, it's not collecting certain pieces, but it's collecting certain constructs. Now, a lot of constructs are just really good because they are like equal to the amount of artifacts you control as their power and stuff like that. So sacrificing something like a Thopter to find a construct is really great value. Number 4, we have Bargaining Table. Now, Bargaining Table is going to allow you to pay mana and tap it, and then draw cards to the mana that you tap. Now, that's pretty good, and where it is an artifact, you get to use it twice. So that will allow you to use it once, and then at the end of your turn, use it again to even draw any more, so that you can basically come back into the game or fill up your hand so that your opponents know that you're not out of gas. Last but not least is Trading Post. Now, Trading Post is really good, but the reason I put Trading Post in this deck is because it allows you to grab artifacts out of your graveyard and put them back in your hand. Now, this is going to be really good because sometimes people destroy the Exodia pieces in this deck, which are like your Bobblehead, your Workers, your Empire Scepter, or whatever. They will destroy it. So whenever you're getting these pieces destroyed, getting those pieces back is really good. And with Trading Post, you'll be able to do it twice a turn. So this is really good for this deck. It's really good for a lot of decks, but I really recommend it in this one. Now, if you're going to be collecting all these artifacts, you're going to need a crew to protect them. So this is actually the crew that I've chosen that are also going to benefit from your commander to really protect your deck, protect your life while you get off these giant combos and collect your pieces. Starting off with Drillworks Mole, which is a really cheap card, 1 mana as well, and whenever it taps, you can put a 1 counter on it and your commander. If you have Soul Foundry on the battlefield, you can copy this, and for 1 mana, an early game play is going to be really solid. So having this pop out and having multiple charges for your commander actually turns your commander into a beater that you can use to win you the game, while also pumping each other and themselves. Next, we have Pew Pew UFO, which is going to ramp you 2 lands, which is really solid because with your commander, you can untap it and then ramp again. Now, you can only choose like 1 or 2 things to do. You can only choose 1 thing to copy. Really, you're just untapping it and activating it again. So really, you're going to have to be really careful on which abilities that you use early game and late game. But this one is really solid early game, really ramping you up for a huge end game. Next, we have Steel Overseer, which is going to charge up all your artifacts. So whenever you have an artifact creature on the battlefield, you tap him, he's going to give everything 1/1 counters. This is a creature I really recommend using for your commander because he's going to be able to untap it and tap it again, same turn, and use all the pieces. Next, we have Toymaker, which will make base 0 creatures like Clockwork Hydra actually equal the power of their mana cost, which is really solid because whenever you use something like Clockwork Hydra, I believe it's 4, but then it gets a plus to equal its counters that it has on it. So it's going to be really good for pumping those kind of creatures. So these turn these other creatures into better beater cards in the game. And then last but not least, we have Guardians of Koilos, which will be a bounce for, like, if you know that there's a board wipe or something coming, you can bounce it, save something, and basically use him as a substitute. It sucks that you lose a guy and it costs 5, but at least you get to protect something that's more important. So now that we know the basis of this deck, let's look at a couple of the upgrades that you can put in this deck. First, we have Scarecrow. Now, Scarecrow allows you to return a creature from the graveyard directly, and you can do it twice per turn in this deck. Super solid. Clock of Omens gives you an additional untap value as long as you have 2 other artifacts on the battlefield, which is really solid. And then you have Roaming Throne, which allows for you to copy triggers from this deck, and a lot of times it's going to double the amount of triggers from other things that we have in the build. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for me, Kanan, for making that video, and I hope that you guys see this, and I hope you guys use this deck in a video. Let's freaking go. I love this deck. Saw this guy in Spiderman, wanted to build him. Thought he was super solid. I also been thinking about doing a Yu-Gi-Oh deck again because I wanted to play Yu-Gi-Oh, and I just saw this and thought, fuck it. All right.